Peace and blessings, family. Once again, I'm back again to present another edition of Spiritual Food for Thought. I hope all is well in your relationship with the Creator, that you continue to grow and get the understanding you need, family, that the Father could take you on further on in your journey with Him. You know, this is a desire for us all. You know, it should be the most important thing in our lives, that we still on our journey to the kingdom as we go through this realm of His permissive will, that is our creation experience, a process. Nothing exists without a process, family. We got to really get that and understand it. That's what creation is. Creation is the process, and it's all the things that have to happen to ultimately accomplish the goal of our Creator. And ultimately, His kingdom, the manifestation of the oneness of His king, that's His goal. Okay? So also everything that's meant to be a part of that kingdom is also His goal to manifest. Okay? And all this is going to happen. And it has been happening, and it's going on now, and it will eventually come to place, is that all of us, that's His choice, become one with Him in the spirit of divine love, because that conquers everything. It takes care of everything. There's no more figuring out nothing as far as all this is concerned. No, that's over with. This was meant to be just what it was, and that's the process of our creation experience. Okay, because the Father, His desire is to make us one with Him, each other, our fellow creatures, and Mother Earth. And we brought us all forth from, such as the kingdom of heaven. So, with that said, family, before I go on with this title, I want to say that I'm not no teacher. I'm not no prophet. I'm nobody in no authority over somebody else that's been so-called ordained to tell you or anybody else the ways of the Creator. All I'm doing is putting out the stuff that He brings to my mind, okay? And as I think about these things and I share these things, you know what I'm saying? It makes sense. And it gives me more of a desire to know the Father's will for my life. Nobody knows me like He does, because He's my Creator. The same thing with you. Nobody knows you like the Creator does. So the bottom line is, if we walk in the spirit of truth, family, then our number one priority is to understand how He sees us and what He wants from us. And as I said, only thing the Creator ever really wanted, family, is us to be ourselves, but with the understanding of His mind. And the only way that can happen is that we got to have dialogue with our Heavenly Father. We got to commune with Him. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean like communing to Him is getting on your knees and pray that 10-minute or half hour or whatever it is prayer, and or going in a closet and all this stuff. Those are forms of prayer. But the pray without ceasing kind of prayer, that's where we understand that we ain't never separated from the Creator, because we keep Him in mind about everything we do. You know what I'm saying? We know that there outside His presence, we can't exist. You know what I'm saying? We don't exist. That's why us in the flesh, we don't exist to Him. But the bottom line, the time is going to come as He continues to open up our minds and our understanding, as He continues through the revelation of the Spirit of His divine love. He continues to ultimately make us holy. Because what holiness is when we are walking in His divine will. In other words, we take our place within His divine order, according to the servants He made us to be. And like I said, all He ever wants is us to be ourselves, but with the understanding of His mind. Because, see, the world makes us hate ourselves. It's always telling us what we're lacking. And as we buy this crap, we cotton pick and start seeking after this, and seeking after that, and all this kind of stuff. And the time and energy we spend in seeking after the things that the world tell us, that's time we could be getting closer and closer to our Father as we have dialogue with him and asking him pertinent questions that is about the kingdom. You know, what are we looking for? And all these things. What is it, Father, you desire? Help me to understand what your kingdom is like. Because one day, as a child of his, there's going to be a beck and call for us to come receive our inheritance of what the kingdom, you know, what the kingdom is. And I said, in the flesh, it said, eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man the things that the Creator plans for those who love him. So the bottom line, in our flesh, we can't even comprehend what the kingdom is. That's why the flesh ain't interested in the kingdom. Flesh is entering here and now and getting all the pleasure I can out of this existence. That's the reality of the flesh. And I want to rule over somebody. You know what I'm saying? I need to run this. I need to control this person. I need to control this animal. And all these things supposedly that bring me pleasure. No thought of the Creator. You know, no thought of the Creator. Like I said, when in our flesh we keep getting and getting and getting, we lose the sight. We lose that understanding that we are created beings. We don't meditate on that and think about that. You know, seek the Father on, Father, how should, I mean, you know, what is it you doing? Why am I here? What do you really want from me? We caught up in the cares of this life in the flesh, family. We don't think like that. You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand, family, it's only through the birth of the Spirit, family, that we can become humble in the presence of our Creator so we can hear and understand what he desires. You know what I'm saying? Because we in pride, you're not in the presence of the Most High in the spirit of pride, because pride don't exist in his presence. You know what I'm saying? Us as created beings simply yield to his divine will and with gladness, because it makes sense to us why he asked us or told us what to do. It makes sense. He ain't telling us to do nothing that don't make sense. He don't want us to believe anything that don't make sense. That's a defense mechanism that the Father put within each of us to guard us so we're not deceived. Okay? He never meant for us to walk by faith and not by sight. That don't even make sense. That's blindly believing something you fully don't understand that's ultimately going to lead us to our own destruction. Because if we operate in a nature that's contrary, that's in opposition to the divine will of the Creator, how are we going to be a part of his kingdom? Going to be a part of that least side of kingdom. You know what I'm saying? So, with that said, family, what I want to touch on here, okay, the 4 horsemen. Okay, when we talk about the 4 horsemen, you know, we need to understand something. It's spiritual principles and all these things that operate in those times and in that realm of time. Okay, we talk about the 4 horsemen. Okay, we got to understand, first of all, what that whole representation is about the four horsemen. You know, they tell us it's something to come at the time of the great tribulation and stuff. Well, family, I beg to differ, because the bottom line is ever since we've been in this existence, it's been great tribulation. You know what I'm saying? And so the bottom line is, and we talk about time and space, it's different from the realm of eternity. Okay, we got to understand, family, that, okay, for example, let's talk about the riders on the horse. Okay, so the riders on the horse, family, are the controllers, because the horse is the power, is a representation of the power. And the rider on the horse is the controller. Okay? And these controllers was basically in the form of men. Now, in order for the horse, the power, which is a representation of the power, family, the only way the rider can control that horse is that he has to manipulate that horse. in some way. That horse has been trained to do whatever this rider desires for him to do. Okay? He's been manipulated. As I said, family, manipulation is not rulership. See, only the one that creates can rightfully rule. You know what I'm saying? At best, man does is what the devil does. The same, because they're the same being. Our flesh is the same being as the devil, family. That's what it is. And all he could do is manipulate through different various tactics and stuff like that. So that rider on that horse actually is controlling that horse by the spirit of manipulation. Because man was never meant to rule the Father's creation. We were meant to control ourselves. But guess what? Until we born of the Spirit, in the time of the kingdom of the Creator, we can't control ourselves. Because we subject to the flesh. You know what I'm saying? And the only one that can overcome the flesh is the mind of the Spirit, of the divine love of our Creator, that causes us to walk in His understanding. So then, it's not a matter of us controlling anything but ourselves. But because the Father is the only one that has the right to rule and control. Because He's the Creator. What a created being look like ruling the Father's creation? See, that's the spirit of pride make us buy that crap. You know what I'm saying? But all praise the Father is exposing these lies. And as we understand these things, family, it changes our nature. You know what I'm saying? Which changes our lives. So, but getting back to that, so we understand that the man on the horse is, I'm going to just say, the manipulator. Okay? And as I said, true rulership or control is not manipulation. You know what I'm saying? It's the understanding of the Father. And as the created beings that we was created to be, to glorify the Father, that's why we comply to His ways. And gladly, because now it's our nature. And it don't make sense to go against the nature that He transformed us into. And that's the divine nature of Christ. Like I said, Christ is the Spirit. It's the Holy Spirit. It's the Spirit of the Father. Because the Father is the Spirit of the Creator. So it makes sense to me that only the Creator can do these things. You know what I'm saying? So believe me, family, Christ is the Spirit of the Father, not the man. Because the man couldn't have done what he did without the Spirit of the Father. So the man can't be the creator and the controller and all that kind of stuff. He was a servant of the Most High, which gave us and showed us an example on how we're supposed to have the same relationship and dialogue with the Father. Okay? So we talk about the man is the controller. Okay? The horse is the power. Now, these particular riders have been given authority to have this power over these horses. Okay? That's supposed to really cause all the works of darkness that we see today. As I say, the first horse was supposed to be the spirit of the Antichrist, right? In his nature, he went forth to conquer and conquering. He had a bow in his hand, but he had no arrows. Because it was through peace he was able to conquer his enemies. You know what I'm saying? Come in the name of peace. But as we know through history and we see every day, the bottom line is, unless it's the love, divine love of the Creator, it ain't really love and friendship that those desire to control you have for you. You know what I'm saying? Because they just manipulating us as they tell us these lies. Like they care and all this old kind of stuff, and they don't. They ain't doing nothing but using us and leading us to our own destruction as we continue to believe their lies. You know what I'm saying? So we talk about the Antichrist. That's the white horse. We're going to talk about the red horse. And red is the color of death and destruction. So the bottom line is, what did that horse, that rider control? He was the spirit of death and destruction and stuff. But he had the power. The power came through the red horse. And red is a sign. So the manifestation of works of darkness came forth in the red horse as well as the white horse. Okay? Then the next horse was a black horse. And basically, that black horse And the rider on it said the rider on it had a scale of a pair of balances in hand. And it said something about a measure of wheat for a penny. So in reality, family, the black horse and the rider that's up on that horse, that's the spirit of money, commerce, and all those things. You know what I'm saying? That's what, and how the powers of darkness had the devil has used that horse to do what? Rule this world. Rule and control us. You know what I'm saying? Because in this world, if you don't have no money, you can't do nothing. You ain't got a spot to lay your head or nothing. You know what I'm saying? And the bottom line is, hey, you know, animals live better than we do when we in those positions and stuff. How is that righteous? You know, we supposed to be children of the Most High, yet we live like this under slavery of those a few that's in power that pass their wickedness down to all the rest, because this world makes criminals out of all of us. Because those don't have the favor to do the things according to the laws, if they don't have the favor, what are they going to do? They're going to become desperate and they're going to do whatever it takes to get what they need. So this world sets us up for failure. It sets us up for all this crap. You know what I'm saying? And so the bottom line is we got to understand when we talk about those horsemen, it's the spirits that's running this world. Then the last horse, which was a pale horse. And I think the significance of that pale horse, you know, is that horse is a representation, family, of everything being mixed up and convoluted. So there's no clarity of what's right and what's wrong. So it's all conditional. You know what I'm saying? And so by this it creates this hell, death and hell that we're experiencing right now. Okay? Because it said death and hell. You know what I'm saying? It said, and the rider on the horse was the spirit of death. And it said hell followed after it. Yeah, because the works of the spirit of death is all the crap we see in this world that we know in our hearts of heart is wrong. And it's not righteous. And it's not the work of the Father. You know what I'm saying? So we got to look at these things for what they really are, family. And they keep talking about that's coming. Family, since day one, when we fell, them horses started right there. You know what I'm saying? See, like I said, we limited our flesh to the understanding of time and space. And if we start talking in the realm of eternity, which is the realm in which the Father operates in, we lose sight of that. So we understand these things according to the flesh. So we'll use these clocks or whatever and say, okay, yeah, this means weeks to years, and this means this and that. And according to, you know, the bottom line is this, man, the Father is in control. Whatever time he says it is, that's what's real. So the bottom line is, as I said, we've been taught and we've been believed that creation was this and then it fell to that. The bottom line is, family, since the beginning, the process of creation has been going on. And it continues now. But one day, the Father's going to complete this. His work is going to be done. And those that have been chosen by him to be a part of this experience of the kingdom of heaven, we're going to come into our place. And we're going to begin to be who and what he desired us to be in Christ. The whole time. It's just now, it's the time of the kingdom. So anything that's not of the kingdom is done with. His work he don't need that no more. So the bottom line is why it's going to be done away with. But, you know, with that said, though, family, my main point is trying to make is that the men on the horses, we got to understand what that means. And the color of those horses is even significant. Because the white horse, okay, that's a spirit that's considered to be clean and pure and all of these things. Okay? The red horse, that's the spirit of war, for death and hate and war and all that. That's what that red horse represents. The black horse, okay? The black horse is a spirit of being black-hearted. We don't even care about people's needs and stuff like that. Because if they don't have money, you just basically leave people out there to die. That's that black-heartedness that's in men that are of the devil. Because the devil is black-hearted. He don't care about people. All he do is use people to get people in a position where he can, through their earthen vessels, do all this wickedness. You know what I'm saying? So there's that black horse. And then the pale horse is because everything's convoluted and mixed up. So there's no absolute truth in this world. Remember I said in another video, truth is what's being allowed to actually empower this world to do what it does. You know what I'm saying? But absolute truth is that's established by the Father in his kingdom. Because nothing that's in opposition to the Father is going to exist in his kingdom. Nothing. So the bottom line is, they keep telling us all this stuff is coming. Family, we've been living in this stuff ever since we came into this world. You know what I'm saying? So the bottom line is, this is another reason why people don't see stuff being so pertinent right now, because they believe based on the teachings of religion and stuff like that, oh, that's going to happen here, or that's going to happen here, there, and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But they don't never question what these people tell them. So they interpret this stuff in the flesh too. You know what I'm saying? No, we got to have a mind of spirit. That's why I said, family, until somebody show me different, and can't nobody else show me nothing different but what the Father shows me. But the reality is, until there's a logical, rational way to explain this, I believe that we in the 6th day, because man is still being created. Because he ain't going to be finished until the 7th day. That's when all things will be established. And we get to rest in all of this stuff. So as I said, I believe, because in reality, family, let's just be honest with ourselves. If we were not there, how can we absolutely say things happen this way? I'm just saying. You hear all these people talking about 150,000 trillion million years ago. What freaking man could possibly know that? Let's believe when somebody told these knuckleheads. All we know at the time, all we truly know, family, is the time that we allowed to have in this world. And what we experience while we here. That's all we really know. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, right now I'm 70 years old. But you know what? That's a drop in the bucket. You know what I'm saying? All I know is the 70 years that I experienced. All the stuff people had said happened a century ago or 2 centuries ago, and that was their experience. And that's what you get in books in general. You get other people's experience. And then they try to make that gospel truth for you to live by. Because they be saying, well, God said this and God said that. Man, God done said all kind of stuff. But there's a difference between God and the Creator. Creator is about absolute truth, family. Absolute purity. And this world ain't got none of that. So everything we get from this world being lies and deceit. And things that we'll be convinced of these things, to believe these things. And here's what? How? By faith. Because we don't have proof, or we didn't experience ourselves and stuff. So the bottom line is we go by faith. And faith is listening to stuff and believing things that you fully don't understand. And all you hearing is stuff that other people experience. And then they try to make their experience your gospel truth. So the bottom line is you never get to find out your place and your purpose and what your experience is supposed to be about as far as the Creator is concerned and how you really could serve him. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I continue to say you got to seek the Creator for yourself. We do. We have to, family, because it's the only way we're going to come into our deliverance. You know, so I just basically said this, share this to make that point. We have to ask the Father to give us the insight and the understanding of the things we've been told. Whether it's been through books, it's still through man. You know what I'm saying? It's through television, movies, all of this media and stuff that we do. It's still a man. It's still man's words. You know what I'm saying? And so as long as we hear man's word, we get secondhand knowledge. And as long as we get secondhand knowledge, we're being led to our own destruction because we're not coming to find ourselves in the Creator. We don't have no desire to understand these things because we so caught up in our world where we want to experience this and we want that and all this stuff and leave a legacy and all this old kind of stuff. Man, a legacy to this world, what is it? It ain't nothing because it's going to pass away. When the Father's done with allowing this stuff to happen, family, that he's using to glorify himself as he causes us to prove our love for him by way of his Spirit, that we endure this stuff, that we stand in all things, and whether we being attacked or whatever, we got to trust our Creator, and his Spirit is the only thing that makes us do that. So we got to understand the importance. Man, the Spirit of the Most High is everything. That's the Spirit of our Father. That's his Spirit. You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand the Son is not the Father. Okay? He's not. He's a servant of the Father, just like we are. He's the first one that was totally born in the Spirit that kept the ways of the Father. Yet he didn't even, he didn't take credit for the work he did. You know what I'm saying? He didn't take, because he said one good but the Father. Family, that's an example to us on how we're supposed to see this stuff too. You know what I'm saying? So the bottom line is, family, we just got to understand what the Father's doing. And we can't understand that until as long as we distracted with the cares of this life. You know what I'm saying? So, as I said, when we talk about the 4 horsemen, that started at the beginning, started the process of the end. So they say it's coming now, family. We've been living this. Because tell me how we haven't been under the control of anything, these things that we just talked about. See what I'm saying? We've been conquered by man's selfishness. Got the nature, because that was man's nature. Fallen man's nature is Antichrist. It's beast mode. And as I said, that's why it's called the mark of the beast, because it's beast mode. And a beast is not you can reason. As I said, it's one of the differences that separate. We can reason, but if we ain't born of spirit, we reason in wickedness. You know what I'm saying? In selfishness. So in reality, family, look at these horses, as I said, and the riders on the horse. Those are all spirits of darkness. The rider on the horse, or the white horse, is the spirit of Antichrist. The rider on the red horse is a murderer. Okay? The rider on the black horse is that black horse, which is these freaking international bankers, these banks and all this stuff we be dealing with. That's the black horse. Because it's cold, it's no love in there. It's a cold, black-hearted existence of a creature. And all it wants to do is consume everything. And at everybody else's expense. And then the gray horse. It's the spirit where all this stuff has been mixed up. That's why we don't know what we are, what we're doing, where we're going. Can we really trust the things we've been told by man? Nope. So where the only place we're going to look to and get the true word, a word of divine love and understanding, where the Creator is sharing with you the reality that all he ever wants you to be is yourself, but with the understanding of his mind. What's greater than that? What greater love is that? That the Creator himself wants to deal with each of us. Because he made each of us. He's in the process of making each of us so that each of us can serve him in the kingdom at that time by the spirit of his absolute love and divine truth. You know what I'm saying? So we'll be serving the Creator in spirit and in truth. Because our hearts and minds is glorified by the spirit of divine love to make us one. So, family, with that said, that's all I got to say about this. Just wanted to throw out there, just, for you to consider these things. Seek the Creator for yourself. Because all of us, family, we got to be seeking and searching for the Creator and be concerned about preserving our relationship with the Creator. Because our relationship with the Father, that's everything, man. Because if we don't have a relationship with the Creator, man, we ain't nothing but the figment of our own imagination, that's under the control of the devil, who he's been allowed to use to rule this world. This is the devil. The only way he can rule this world is that he has to possess an earthly vessel. And he possesses the earthly vessels of fallen man. And that's how he continues to rule this world, through our wicked asses in the flesh. We got to understand that the only one that can deliver us from all this stuff, family, is our Heavenly Father. So, with that said, family, I hope I said something to give you something to think about and consider. And I pray that the Most High will continue to bless you and watch over you, keep you, and meet your every need, family, as long as you continue to seek and search Him out for yourself. So with that said, family, I will say until next time, one love and peace.